Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com. Today we are going to answer the question, when socialism started in Venezuela. First, I want to explain that Venezuela right now is not socialist or communist at all. We have right now what is known as crony capitalism. But believe me, we have anything but socialism or communism here in Venezuela. We have a free market, let's call it like that, quote unquote, and it's basically a crony capitalism, but we have capitalism here indeed. Actually, the issues that we have right now in the country are more related towards capitalism problems than socialism problems, because here are having problems making ends meet because we are, the cost of living here is very high for the average Venezuelan, and the struggles are because in order to cover all of the expenses, it's very difficult for the average Venezuelan. Okay, putting that aside, the mindset of the Venezuelan is a little bit socialist, a little bit, but not bad, not draconian as on the Western Europe, or lately what I'm seeing on the United States and Canada, and even other places in Latin America. I will say the Venezuela is one of the least socialist mindsets that we have on Latin America. Okay, very good. We already said that. But when do the socialism started in Venezuela? Let's answer that. Most people say that socialism, communism started on 98 with the election of Hugo Chavez, and basically he said they were socialist political strategies, but actually they were just communist Marxist policy. And of course that destroyed the economy, combined to the oil prices and such, well, and corruption, a lot of corruption. But yeah, this video is not going to be about that. But actually, socialism in Venezuela started on the 70s with the presidency, the administration of Carlos Andrés Pérez. That's the patient zero for socialism here in Venezuela. And in case you don't know Carlos Andrés Pérez, he was a quote unquote social democrat. He was a slick guy. He was a populist. He was, a true-blooded politician, to say the least. So he's a very, shady guy, slick guy. Most Venezuelans hate him. The people, well, that lived when he was president. He had 2 terms here in Venezuela, one on the early 70s, and the second term was on the late 80s and the early 90s. So Carlos Andrés Pérez, he basically was the responsible of the nationalization of the oil industry and the beginning of PDVSA, the state-owned company. So on 1975, that's the year when formally the socialists started in Venezuela. Here in Venezuela, oil was discovered over 100 years ago, and the first president that put their hands on it was the dictator named Juan Vicente Gómez. This guy was a right-wing nationalist dictator. He lasted in office around 27 years, and the first legislation regarding the oil industry was thanks to him. And he was basically the guy that he was in favor of oil multinationals working on the country, extracting the resources, and that's what happened during his administration. And what basically he did is, of course, was pretty much very in favor of international companies coming here and doing their thing and extracting the oil. And of course, that brought some prosperity to the economy, but not as much as the Venezuelan population from that era wanted on the first place. Now, the highlight of the Venezuelan economy was on the 1950s with another dictator, and this one is a rock star still in Venezuela. His name is Marcos Pérez Jiménez. Now, the on the 1950s is when you see the pinnacle of the Venezuelan economy. At that moment, Venezuela was number 4 on GDP per capita. So the country was pretty rich back then. It was during the dictatorship of Marcos Pérez Jiménez. And contrary to Juan Vicente Gómez, this guy was and still is very popular amongst Venezuelans. Even people that wasn't, there are younger people that love that guy. This guy is a right-wing dictator and very hard, with a fist of iron dictatorship. But at the same token, he had very good open market policies. He was very strict with crime, but at the same time invested a lot on infrastructure. So the Venezuela on the 50s was very safe and also a lot of economic development. But the guy was a dictator and it was kind of an a-hole to censor myself on YouTube. So the guy was overthrown by the late 50s, but still the economy was pretty much an open market. On 1970s, the Venezuelan economy still was a top 10 regarding GDP per capita, and the downgrade from number 4 to number 8 or 9 on that decade was due to the economic growth, the economic miracle that we saw on Germany and Japan. Remember, those economies were destroyed during World War II, and thanks to the Marshall Plan and the investment, and of course, both Germany and Japan had great economies. They did, they did everything pretty much good, very much fine on that economic miracle. Of course, Venezuela was downgraded to number 4 to number 8 or 9. So no big deal on that regard. However, the Venezuelan people at the moment, Venezuela was known as the Saudi Venezuela. The OPEC was formed and Venezuela was one of the founding members of OPEC. And Venezuela, and also we had on the early 70s the Yom Kippur War, and we had the energy crisis. The price of crude oil internationally just spiked a lot. So Venezuela was very rich on the early 70s. So the Venezuelans got spoiled, they got soft, and they wanted to be taken care of by the government. And that's when Carlos Andrés Pérez took office and said, these guys want some old school socialism, we're gonna give them. So he nationalized the oil industry, also put all of these protectionist policies, a lot of taxes, a lot of public spending, and all of the crap that socialists do. And in this particular case, it wasn't ideological socialist. He's not like a Bernie Sanders, someone like that. He's just a shady old politician that likes public spending and such in order to win elections and to win the vote and the good faith of the population. And after that, the next administration with other presidents keep this mindset, this mentality of public spending and giving free stuff, and people just love it, and they socially engineer the Venezuelan to be a socialist. And of course, on 98, everything was bad. It was a lot of corruption and a lot of inequality, and they voted for Hugo Chavez, and the rest is history. He just went from social democracy to flat out communism and destroy the whole thing by 2013. And then Maduro keep the same things that Chavez. And right now, Maduro is considered to some people a neoliberal because it's kind of reversing a little bit what happened with Hugo Chavez. He doesn't admit it because he's the heir, the political son of Hugo Chavez, so he doesn't criticize, Maduro doesn't criticize Chavez, but actually he's reversing the trend that Chavez applied on his days. So, in order to answer the question, when Venezuela became socialist, you can pretty much say on the year 1975 with Carlos Andrés Pérez. Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.